are few things I love better than crisp mornings, colorful leaves, and the excuse to watch vampire movies all day. Whether you call it spooky season, hoa hoa time, or just plain old autumn, it's that time of the year. And nothing pairs better with mist-shrouded trees and nightly chills than a good book. That's why I've selected a range of scary, cozy, autumnal, and moody novels to carry me through the rest of the fall season. Before we dive in, it should be noted this video is a part 2 of sorts. I've already started my seasonal reading, so be sure to watch my first video if you want more recommendations. This list covers November as well, so a few of these books are more moody than Halloweenish. And there are a couple books which I'll be reading for Remembrance Day, including a graphic novel. Without further ado, here are the remainder of the books I'd like to read in autumn. One of the books I'm most excited to read this fall is Ray Bradbury's Something Wicked This Way Comes, which follows the impact on two boys living in Greentown, Illinois, when a mysterious but ultimately sinister carnival rolls into town. Reading the synopsis for this book, as well as watching the trailer for the movie adaptation, I was reminded of two books I loved: Erin Morgenstern's The Night Circus and Stephen King's Fairy Tale. Undoubtedly, this book has served as an influence to many of the authors and books I adore. Ray Bradbury is an iconic writer, and I've been wanting to explore more of his work ever since I read The Veldt in grade 8. His writing is powerful, memorable, and influential, but beyond that, I just love the premise of the book. Plus, the novel is set in the fall, taking place a week before Halloween. It's supposed to be creepy, mysterious, and nightmarish, making it perfect for spooky season. Then we have A Sorceress Comes to Call. I've been wanting to try T. Kingfisher for a while now, having heard great things about her from several of the booktubers I follow. And if you've seen my last fall TBR, you'll know I had Nettle and Bone on that list. Both novels are perfect for autumn, but this book features a nefarious sorceress, which is basically just another word for witch. Cordelia has had a strange upbringing, to say the least, being raised by her strict and cunning sorceress mother. The only reprieve she finds from her strange and rigid existence is through the ride she takes on her horse, Falada. However, everything changes when her mother abruptly uproots her from the only home she's ever known to a manor where a squire lives with his daughter. Cordelia knows her mother's plans for the squire and his family include nothing good, and Hester, the squire's daughter, soon recognizes the discomfort Cordelia herself has around the sorceress, which leaves Hester and Cordelia to unravel the sorceress's seduction scheme. For me, nothing says fall like dark fairy tale retellings, malevolent magic, and murderous plots, with this novel also being a retelling of the Brothers Grimm's Goose Girl. This book is technically 3 rolled into a single omnibus, but all share a common thread: vampires. Despite how little these stories are discussed, Tanya Huff won the Lambda Award for her efforts. The first story opens with Tony Foster, who has just moved to Vancouver with an actual vampire, Henry. Once there, he secures a job as a production assistant on a TV show that is, fittingly enough, about vampires. Of course, strange things start happening, including the discovery of a body, leaving Tony to put things together. As a Canadian, I appreciate that this book takes place somewhere I've actually been and can picture. It's rare for Canada to be acknowledged in stories at all, but it makes sense given Huff is Canadian. Plus, I went to screenwriting school, so I have some familiarity with Vancouver's film industry. Overall, being a lover of vampires, I'm thrilled to read a book that takes place where I actually live. First off, I want to give a shout out to Raf Blutex for recommending this book to me on my last fall TBR video. This is Peter S. Beagle's A Fine and Private Place, which follows the story of a ghost who falls in love with a living woman. Given I just finished and loved TJ Klune's Under a Whispering Door, I was immediately intrigued by this premise. It's simple, but promises to be powerful. Plus, I've always loved The Last Unicorn, and quite enjoyed the book when I read it. So I'm hoping for a story that's enchanting, whimsical, and melancholy. All perfect vibes for fall. In a similar vein, we have The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. This is also a ghost love story, in which a ghostwriter, fittingly enough, falls for her annoyingly good-looking but recently deceased editor. Thanks to TJ Klune, I'm on a bit of a ghost kick right now, so I couldn't resist another romance between a living person and a dead one. I don't usually read more traditional romance books, but I discovered this book through one of Darling Desi's videos. If you're looking for something autumnal or fall book recommendations for novels you might not have heard of, I have to give her channel a shout out. She talks about books with a nearly unparalleled enthusiasm. She just makes you want to read the book she discusses. And The Dead Romantics is no exception. There's just something about the premise which speaks to me, despite my usual indifference to the more standard romance genre. And I'm looking forward to having something more lighthearted to read. A palate cleanser, if you will, given how dark or depressing some of the books on this list are sure to be. Getting into the books that are more disturbing than out and out scary, we have Flowers in the Attic. While this novel is classified as a horror, it's more psychological horror than Bump in the Dark. As such, it didn't scream Halloween to me, but seems perfect for the rainy days and dark evenings of November. This is one of those infamous books you don't want to read, but also kind of have to. It's a book people dared each other to read because it's that messed up. A scheming mother keeps her 4 children locked in the attic, but what is supposed to be a temporary solution spins into a years-long imprisonment. And entirely cut off from the outside world, these developing kids engage in less than savory acts. Complicit in all this is the children's grandmother. Together, mother and grandmother keep the 4 kids a secret, while outwardly presenting themselves as lovely people with a lovely home, in the hopes of securing a fortune. From the synopsis alone, you know this book is going to be disturbing, giving the Lannister twins a run for their money. It's like a train wreck from which you can't look away. Jumping back into more ostensibly spooky fare, we have Tanararive Dew's The Reformatory. Dealing with themes of racism and prejudice, our story follows Robbie, who's sentenced to rehabilitation at the Gracetown School for Boys after defending his sister Gloria from a white and wealthy landowner in the era of Jim Crow. Robbie has always been able to communicate with ghosts, an ability which usually gives him solace given the loss of his mother, but which reveals horrifying secrets when he reaches the titular reformatory. There, he's confronted by the ghosts of dead students, other boys like him who vanished. Thankfully, Robbie isn't alone in his quest to uncover the terrifying truth, being aided by his friends Redbone and Blue. And from outside, his sister does her part to protect him, trying her best to extricate him from the school before he meets with a similar fate. This novel, with its ghosts and murders, seems perfect for the rest of October, but also timely, given the surge in racism and bigotry over the past year. The synopsis also made me think of The Spirit Bares Its Teeth, a novel I discussed in my last TBR, which similarly deals with marginalization, how we segregate and humiliate those who are different, and a haunted reform school wherein the students go missing. That both books were released in 2023 is kind of spooky, but also kind of sad, given what that says about our current society. November seems like the perfect month to dive into books that are lyrical and disturbing, and Lolita, like Flowers in the Attic, fits that bill, being moody and unsettling without being ostensibly spooky. This may be the most controversial classic there is, rivaled only by the likes of A Clockwork Orange or American Psycho. Like those books, it follows a protagonist you don't want to root for, a man who commits the vilest of acts. Detractors of this book express concerns that it glorifies the main character's perspective. I don't necessarily think that's true, but I need to read the novel and form my own opinion. If it highlights a crime that remains all too common, which I can't even discuss on a platform like this one because of how vile it is, that's worth noting. But again, I have to actually read the story before I can attempt to guess at Vladimir Nabokov's intentions. I do know it's supposed to be beautifully written, making the disturbing plotline that much more disturbing. And part of the reason this book endures boils down to Nabokov's way with words. Moreover, it's a novel that's cited in works like My Dark Vanessa, as we continue to have conversations about consent, exploitation, misogyny, and grooming. If for no other reason, I want to read this book because it is a classic. Infamous or not, it's had a huge cultural impact. And I'm interested in reading books that are controversial, cancelled, or banned in the interest of adding my own voice to the discussion from an informed place. Since it will be November, I do want to take the time to acknowledge Remembrance Day and use that time to educate myself. I am dreading my read of The Diary of Anne Frank, but in light of current events, I think it's a more essential read than ever. I already know the end of Anne's story wasn't a happy one, but that's precisely why we need to read it. If we don't read books like this, we risk repeating the same tragedies. For those who don't know, this is the diary kept by a Jewish girl during World War II. It's been widely taught in schools, and I always wanted to read it, even as I didn't want to read it at the same time. It's heartbreaking to even think about. And honestly, there isn't much more I feel I can say. That this is a true story and one which ended tragically for a little girl should say enough. But with everything happening now, I don't think it can be said enough. Following that, we have Art Spiegelman's Mouse. While this is a fictionalized account which turns people into cartoon animals, that doesn't make it any more lighthearted than Anne's account. In this award-winning story, often banned in the United States because of the occasional swear word, mice represent the Jewish population, while the cats serve as an allegory for the Nazi Party. I've been anxious to read this graphic novel for a few years now, but I feel strange saying I'm excited to read it because that doesn't feel like the right word, given the gravity of the content. I do think it's one of those stories everyone should read, And in an age when Holocaust denialism is on the rise, it honestly disgusts me that anyone would ban such a seminal work under the guise of it being inappropriate. When it comes to the events of World War II, the content should be inappropriate. It should scare children and disturb them, because we never want this to happen again. I remember being disturbed by stories I heard in middle school from survivors of the Holocaust, and I'm glad I was, because this can't happen again. Those who don't learn history are doomed to repeat it, and Mouse is brilliant because it makes a horrifying chapter of history accessible without sugarcoating or diminishing what happened. It teaches an essential lesson. I haven't read it yet, but I already know it's going to be incredible. Art Spiegelman draws from his own experience, exploring the relationship between a cartoonist and his father, Vladek Spiegelman, a survivor of the Holocaust. And while it feels strange to say I'm looking forward to reading such a heart-wrenching narrative, I feel it's a book I have to read. Wrapping up the autumn season, I'd like to read Angela Carter's Book of Fairy Tales. Angela Carter has come up a few times on this channel, having rapidly become one of my favorite authors over the past couple years. I read The Bloody Chamber in 2023 and was blown away by her beautifully macabre and atmospheric writing. Some people might find Carter's prose too purple, but she's the best writer for anyone in love with language itself. Her descriptions are so vivid, so stark, making her the perfect writer to bring fairy tales to life. Promising her usual feminist twist on the classic tales, Angela Carter also explores stories from around the world. Yet another refreshing change to a genre which usually focuses on the Brothers Grimm or other Eurocentric narratives to the exclusion of all else. Like her other work, this collection of stories promises to be beautifully bloody or garishly gorgeous. Angela Carter's stories are like white roses spattered in blood, and I'm here for it. I can never get enough of her writing, which nearly takes a life of its own, and I adore fairy tales, horror, and feminism. On that note, I wanted to mention Angela Carter's Burning Your Boats. I started reading this towards the end of last fall, bouncing off the book as the Christmas season took over. I'm excited to continue reading this, dipping in and out of Carter's lyrical writing between novels. This collection brings several of her collections together, including The Bloody Chamber, and it goes without saying that I'm eager to revisit those stories, especially given my love for The Bloody Chamber's film adaptation In the Company of Wolves, which I make a point of watching every October. I can't promise I'll get to everything on this list, and it's likely there are books I've forgotten, or which I may add to my TBR before the fall is through. But this is my basic plan, and overall I'm really excited to read every book on this list, in addition to those I covered in my first video. I'd encourage you to watch the first video if you haven't already, and to check out the creators I mentioned at the video start. I just want to celebrate autumn this year, and I hope I've helped you get in the mood or added to your own TBR. Moreover, if you're struggling with current events and want to educate yourself, I hope I've made a few suggestions in that vein too. While I'm enthusiastically enjoying this season, I don't want to stop learning or developing my empathy given how both are currently under fire. All in all, I wanted my list to celebrate my favorite season while offering escapism and education, and I hope I found that balance. Let me know what your recommendations are, and thank you for watching, and happy reading.